Okay, I think we're live. Well, good morning, everybody. This is Ian Bourne from Cloud 2020. I'm going to give people just another 60 seconds or so to get logged in because we're bang on 11 o'clock. So just bear with us a second and then we'll kick off. For people just joining us, this is the leave and absence in HR discussion with my colleague Jason from Hubdrive and myself. We're just going to give people another few seconds to join us for today's webinar. For those that missed it, there was a previous webinar to this where we discussed how to digitize HR, which was a lively discussion between Jason and I. So if you'd like to revisit our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find that on there. Okay, well, I think we'll kick off. So good morning, everybody. As I say, my name's Ian Bourne from Cloud 2020, and I have the utmost pleasure, as always, to have my colleague Jason Fellows in the team today. Jason is from Hubdrive. Jason, would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, Ian, thanks for the introduction. As Ian mentioned, my name is Jason Fellows, and I work for a company called Hubdrive. We are partners with Ian and his team over at Cloud 2020. Obviously, the main focus of the solutions or partnership that we have is based on human resources topics. So yeah, happy to kind of kick off a discussion between you and I, Ian. Tell a little bit of stories and some success scenarios, and show people how they can maybe be a little more efficient and tracking, especially when it comes to leave and absence.
Yeah, sure, Jason, great. And thanks for being here this morning. I think to put this in context, what we're talking about today is really about modern work and the expectation of today's employees. And I think this opening screen of ours kind of says it all. You know, if you look at young people these days, or any of our employees really, it's all about enabling them to be good employees for themselves as well as the organisation they work for, and I think that's really kind of the undercurrent, the subtext of what we're talking about today. So I think it's that social contract between the employee and the employer, and how we help to make that happen. Obviously for the benefit of the organisation, but that can only happen if we've got the right people in the right place doing the right things. So perhaps we'll move on to, he says, trying to get the slides, move on. Here we go. So when we start talking about leave and absence, it actually goes right across all the a lot of the HR functions within a good HR platform. What we've done here is identified the ones in colours that actually impact from what we can see. Jason, I mean, you know, we're going to pick out some of these in more detail, but as an overview, how important do you find the whole leave and absence thing in from your customers' feedback?
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great question, Ian. In terms of, you know, employee satisfaction, even productivity increases and things of that nature within an organization, leave is, you know, one of those key things, right? It's one thing to be efficient, productive, and all of those things, but we always have to remember that human resources and the functions that that are covered in these solutions are about the people, the actual human beings, right? So anything that the solution can do to make them more comfortable, to make them get information quicker, faster, and in and getting that information the way they typically do business, or the way that they do things in terms of, researching information using mobile phones, iPads, whatever it may be, is really key, right? And with the graphic that's on the screen right now, those types of things, cover really a whole gamut of things. But one thing that I wanted to share, because people ask me this a lot, what do we get for feedback from customers? And we had a customer that dropped us a note. It wasn't an HR manager, it wasn't the CEO or anybody that made the decision to use our software. It was just an employee that was taking advantage of the software being in their organization. This was unfortunately previous to COVID-19 and coronavirus, where people could really be free and go on vacation. But this guy dropped us a note just saying, hey, thanks for developing such a cool tool, because he had the opportunity to, his wife had called him and said, hey, I got this no notice leave that came up. I can take 4 or 5 days off. Can we book a trip? Those trips at the travel agencies where, hey, you get all of this for this price, but you got to book tomorrow. And previously their leave process or leave approval process was really time consuming, paper based, and it would take, maybe up to 2 weeks to find out if a person got a leave approved. And him and his wife went into the travel agency, and it happened to be a work day. He was off or whatever it meant. And he sent his boss a quick chat, I guess at that time it was in Skype, and said, hey, I'm going to request leave. Can you please approve this as soon as possible? And right there from the travel agency on his phone, he applied for leave, got it to his supervisor, got the approval, and he said it took him less than a minute. And those sorts of things are almost expected from employees today, right?
Yeah.
The painful process of paper, sign here, sign there, is just really an obsolete thought process. And it was super cool to get that feedback. We get feedback from HR managers, but from a normal employee, we don't always get that, and it really kind of struck home.
I sign up to that so much. I think that if you think about, in other aspects of software that we work with, so for example, we work with an insurance solution, which is where customers now, from the comfort of their sofa at 9 o'clock at night, want to be able to generate insurance for their car for the next morning. That's the kind of immediacy of what people do these days. So your example of wanting to walk into a travel agency or be online these days and book, especially now, at the moment in the UK, they're about to open the floodgates on when we can book a holiday.
Sure.
Wow. So imagine that scenario where you can actually book a holiday immediately, but you can't get the leave to back it up. So therefore, there's that real dilemma. So I think this immediacy is not a nice to have. It's a necessity these days to be able to give your staff that option to be able to do that. And I think in particular, we talked about the staff, but I think there's an onus on management to make sure people take leave. I've got the situation in my own company. The team are just there working from home, and they're not taking enough leave. And I've actually got to monitor the leave that they are taking and say to them, go and take some leave. You need this. You need to go and get some headspace. So I think there's two sides of that coin, very much so, Jason. But yeah, great example. Yeah,
and I mean, at the same time, Ian, we've both, been employees just starting out and had these kind of opportunities arise. And you make the decision as an employee: do I book this trip and hope to get leave? And we've all done it, made the mistake, right? But this takes that risk away from the employee and the employer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the immediacy now is just so powerful and so useful. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper, and we got these slides, which Katie will send out, I'm sure. So, but I'm just looking down here, and so a lot of this kind of build on that initial conversation we've had here, which is about the administration, but everything in one system. And you'll notice that these are general slides around digitization of HR, but you'll notice that leave and absence are right in there. So now I think we need to separate this discussion, leave and absence. And that's a discussion in itself, isn't it? I mean, certainly, I can relate to the story when I was a manager in the UK Ministry of Defence, and I was in an office job and had about 400 staff that I was deploying, and the local football club were playing away, and they'd done extremely well, purely by accident, and the phone rings, and I could hear that whoever was phoning me, before mobile phones, right, they were phoning from a phone box in a bar. And you could hear it. You could hear the jukebox going. You could hear them, you know exactly what the situation was. And somebody phoned me up and said, "Hi, I need to take a day's leave sick." And you go, "Oh, really? Yes, yes." And the next question was, and you could hear the person shout up, "I've got the manager on the phone. Anybody else here sick today?"
Yeah. Yeah, that's obviously, something that we've taken into consideration, right? A lot of organizations, primarily in the UK, adhere to the Bradford factor, right? And use the Bradford factor as a tool to gauge our employees, as an absence as opposed to normal vacation or holiday. Are they taking advantage, or are, they just circumstances? If somebody gets hurt, they're out for 6 weeks, a broken leg, whatever it may be, those types of things happen. We're all human beings. But at the same token, to carry on what you just mentioned, is an employee sick every Friday that happens to be sunny, right? So there's a magical convenience, and the Bradford factor being in the solution helps, give management an overview. Hey, this person seems to be taking advantage of a situation. Let's have a conversation, as opposed to that, that guy or gal that, broke their leg doing something legitimate, and they just happen to be out for 6 weeks. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a huge difference between just taking leave and then just being absent.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think also that regular leave issue, it may be somebody that's is taken off and perhaps in not the right way, but it might identify somebody that's got perhaps a social issue that they're trying to manage, like a sick relative or something. It means you can identify that there's a conversation needs to happen, and I think that's really crucial. You sit down with somebody and say, look, this seems to be a regular occurrence. Is there something we can help you with here? What is the issue? And it may be disciplinary, but it could possibly identify, well, I've got a sick relative and I can't. Fine, okay. Well, let's work this together, because let's take the pressure off you and say, okay, every second Thursday you need to take your relative to an appointment. That's fine. Yeah. We'll make the time up another time. But then that brings that employee, takes a lot of pressure off the employee, but also brings them on board with you. So, but unless you can see that, you can't identify it. And the only way you're going to do that is have a platform which will easily identify that for you, especially if you've got a lot of employees, because otherwise it's noise, isn't it, Jason, there?
Yeah, no, and Ian, you and I both have been working for massive organizations. I mean, you were in the Ministry of Defense, I was in the U.S. Army. So even those bigger organizations, like Microsoft, for example, that's a huge organization, but they really place a value on the employee. And I think most of the employees would come back and tell you, hey, yeah, Microsoft really cares about me. The management really buys into that idea. And if an employee is absolutely of that mindset that, it's okay for me to go to my management team and say, hey, there's some scenarios that I need to run by and I need support, for sure, the 4 days out of the week that they're going to be there, they're going to work twice as hard. They're going to be so much more motivated. So it's something that an organization should want to do, not have to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Again, going back some years, and I know that we're just kind of swapping stories here, but this one story had a massive impact on me. So some years ago, in the same scenario, we had the old job card boards. You remember? So every person was a card, and you slotted them around into different positions on a big board. I remember that. Way back. But there was a batch of 10 people in the corner, and I said to my assistant, who are these 10 people? And they said, well, those are long-term sick. And we went, oh, okay, fine. Well, that means I'm 10 people down. What can I do around that? So I start at the top, and I remember the guy, Eddie, whose surname I'll keep to myself, but this guy, Eddie, and I phoned him up. I said, Eddie, hi, it's Ian here. I've taken over in that role. Eddie, what, how are you? And he said, well, I'll be honest with you, I'm bored stiff. He said, I said, what's the problem? He said, well, I had this heart issue and what have you, but I'm just fed up of being at home. I said, okay, let me get you a medical. All right, and let's just see what comes out of it. So I got him a medical. I spoke to the medical officer. I said, what's the issue? He said, well, yeah, he's had a heart problem. But I said, can you come back to work? He said, well, yeah, in the right type of role. I said, okay, fine, let's find the right type of role. And we did. We found the right type of role. And we brought Eddie back in. I'll tell you now, I met Eddie 20 years later. And well, the first thing was I got transferred. I got transferred to Gibraltar. And Eddie wrote me a letter just saying, you gave me something to get up for in the morning because you got me back to work and you made me feel that I was important again. I had something important to do again. And I met him 20 years later, and I said, hey Eddie, I remember, how you doing? He said, I'll never forget you. He said, because you got me back into work. And I said, I'll never forget you because you wrote and told me how important that was to you. It was a massive thing in my life about what that meant to people. So yeah, I think that positive employment approach is just so critical, and not just for the people but the rest of the team that can see that's happening.
Sure. Yeah, it's contagious, right? I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah, but I think it brings us back to this thing about real-time reporting, because you need that data. You need to understand what's going on, and you can only see it if you can visualize it. In my view, anyway, if I can't read streams of lines, I can see visualization, and that means something to me, and that's where that real-time reporting thing comes in. I think also there's an immediacy, and that's where this whole deadlines thing we talk about here. So we've had the point there about leave requests, sick leave and all that kind of good stuff. There's an immediacy these days, and again we've picked up on that and talked about how important that is. But it's also important, again, from a management point of view, because we need to spot those things up front, do something about it, and take some action. So I think the ability to be flexible around what type of leads there are as well is important. So as we know, in self-service, we talk about enable people to actually book leave, and that could be just purely vacation or holiday, depending on what language you speak. But it could also well be as well special leave and what have you. Depending on how you support what your approach is about. I'll try and get the word I'm thinking of now, where you enable people to take charge of themselves, and then we talk about it afterwards. So in other words, if you need to take some special leave, take some special leave, and then let's discuss it. So that's empowerment. That's the word I was looking for. So how much you empower your staff to do that. And I think this is much more pertinent these days. Now we're looking at the new normal, whatever that is. This whole being able to report and manage a team that you're probably not even seeing these days. There has to be a lot more empowerment, and there has to be a lot more trust. But to do that, you need to give people the tools to be able to report back to you about what's going on.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Ian, and that's one of the things that I think we've done well inside of our solution in terms of development is. There is no one size fits all for any organization. The types of leaves or absence requests need to fit the organization. It could be that one company says, "Hey, all I need is normal holiday, parental leave, and sick leave." End of discussion. But the next organization may say, "Hey, I need normal holiday or leave, I need sick leave, I need maternity leave, I need 10 other ones. And that's one of the beauties, right? Partnering with you guys, you can make those adjustments for the organization as need be and make it as flexible as possible. It can be opened up for employee self-service, or it can be only opened up where, hey, we have to have a discussion before this request comes in, right? Need some kind of documentation or what have you. And that flexibility, I think, is the key for for successful HR solution.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned a very large employer earlier on, and I know that certainly in the UK, that large employer has just implemented wellness days, and that was a local decision taken. And they had to create that ability to book a wellness day, and staff have to take 1 a month, literally just to say, right, I'm having my wellness day today. My email is off, my phone is switched off. I'm going to sit in the garden, go for a walk, whatever. And because of they've understood the pressures of working in a different kind of mode in the current scenario. But yet, what you need then is a platform that can respond to that you can literally create that whole new leave environment and enable people to self-serve to do it. So we live in interesting times, but what it means is we need the flexibility to be able to respond to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think the employee self-service, as we said before, is so crucial these days, and so many examples of why it's important. But also it's much more about the mindset. No longer is it I used to carry around a card, my leave card, and I'd go and get it initialed, and that would go into a book, and that would go up. No, people need to be able to react immediately. And where do they go these days to do that? On their phone. Unless it's on the phone, it doesn't exist, and so that's absolutely critical. Yeah. And I think we kind of talked about this before, about the whole mobile working and what have you. I mean, what more is there to say? It needs to be done. It's just the way ahead. I think. Well, Jason, you have got a myriad of stories. You got any other stories you want to throw on the table before we start having a look at what's going on about the importance or examples of where this kind of approach happens?
Yeah, no, this mobile working, right? People don't always request leave when they're sitting at their desk at work. So the ability for them, as I mentioned, comfortable wise, to be able to do it or submit a leave request as an example, wherever they're at, when they're speaking to their spouse, their significant other, or whatever it may be, when the time comes up, right? I think those days of, hey, it's January 1st, give me your leave plan for the year, really might be a bit outdated, right? I mean, it's okay to plan have a leave plan, but there are going to be those spur of the moment leaves that come up. And it's absolutely key to be able to be flexible. The other thing about it is we have to understand that there's as many different types of companies out there as there are companies, and there are going to be some people that, when they're at work, for example, in a production facility or what have you, that aren't going to even be sitting at a computer. So they're only going to use their smartphone or their tablet at home or whatever it may be. And if you think about a relatively large production facility, what is the distance from that employee's workplace to the actual HR department to find out how many days leave I have? Did my leave get approved? So if they're walking back and forth 2 or 3 times a week while they're in that I need my leave approved mode, that's really cutting down their productivity, and that affects and impacts the business. So not only does it detract from the comfort of the employee, but it also detracts from potential productivity.
Absolutely. And actually, you mentioned productivity. If we can actually bring the customer into this as well. So an organization's customer, what you don't want to do is degrade the service to a customer, whatever that customer expects from your business. And of course, to do that, for people to take leave means you still need to maintain whatever the customer expects. So therefore, the ability to have substitution is, I think, really, really an important aspect. And that means that, especially with a diverse team, we've got our team stretched all over the country, and we're not in the same room at all. So to be able to say, right, I need some leave, but I can only do it if my substitute, if we were in the same business, my substitute is you, Jason, so I can take leave, but only if you can cover for me. And having that built into the platform really is powerful. So yeah, I want a day's leave. Jason, are you around? You get, as we know in the platform we use, you get the email, can you substitute? Yes, I can. Fine, brilliant. Goes to my line manager, gets signed off. And that can all happen by email and on the phone, instantly. But that means also for the customer, I'm out, everyone, you are covering for me, and therefore the customer will be satisfied if they call up whilst I'm out. I think that's really important as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
Super. Okay. Well, I think what we might do now is, perhaps I'll look at a platform, at the platform that we're talking about, which is your HR for Dynamics, sitting on the Dynamics or the Power Platform, and actually I'll look at it in real life, and let's have a look. So I think first of all, what we're looking at here is, so this is an HR manager, and obviously what we, straight up here, we've got here active leave summaries. And why is this important? Well, as an HR manager, I need to maintain an understanding of how much leave is left, and certainly for two reasons. One is, and we certainly experienced this last year, because with the COVID shutdown, no one's taking leave. And it got towards the end of the leave year, and suddenly, if everyone took the leave, the place was shut down in our case. So, and I know we weren't alone in that. An awful lot of businesses had the same thing. So in terms of leave management here at the management level, it's about making sure you don't build up a deficit in leave. But also from the welfare side of view, as we said earlier on, it's about making sure people do take the leave for their own well-being and time and headspace. So that's critical. In the UK also, I've done the same with you in Germany there, Jason, but the leave accrued actually has an impact on your balance sheet. So we have to declare leave outstanding because the potential cost to the business if it's carried over. I don't know if that's that applies in all countries, but certainly it's an issue at management level.
Yeah, I think that pertains in several countries, but the other aspect of it, if you scroll back up to that actual leave and entitlement, right? Do me a favor and just expand that chart.
Yeah.
If we take a look at this as a department scenario, right? Because in the UK you have that balance sheet scenario where you have to report that, it becomes a massive end of month, end of quarter, end of year spreadsheet somebody has to build and all of those things, and that can be time consuming and a bit of a waste of time. The good thing about this is you can see every department's leave entitlement and what they have remaining just in one snapshot. That can be drilled down, to employees or whatever it may be. But the other beautiful part of that is, if you have to send that report to finance and they're not using the platform, or you outsource it or whatever, you can export those things to an Excel spreadsheet so they have the report in real time, as opposed to, standing there at the end of the quarter, month, whatever, and spending 3 or 4 days just trying to get that information. It can be kind of a big challenge.
Really good point, actually, Jason. When we talk with customers, when we deploy this sort of thing, we often get asked two questions. One is, can you export this to Excel, and can you do standard reports? And the answer to both questions is, well, yes. But the subsequent question is, why? Because so what we try to convince people to do, you've got up here, export to Excel. Yes, you can do all that. But what we try to convince people to do is to go into meetings, go into board meetings even, with this as the reporting tool, because it's live. As soon as you export to Excel, you've created a snapshot in history. As soon as you've created a report, which you can do here, you can create reports, you're creating a snapshot in history. Now, okay, I understand there are times when you need to do that for quarterly or whatever. But ideally, as you say, we're looking at in here, and this is live data. This can be live data, and you can see the sort of reports you can pull. These straight out of the box. We can obviously customize these, but then you can actually drill in. So you can say, okay, what is going on? What is going on here? With this one here, and I can down select into there, and this down selects right down to the individual line item level to the employees, and we can actually see exactly what the scenario is. So this live data, it's really powerful stuff. And as you say, no work's been done to do this. It's done. It's done for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, having reports that are just live data, automatic, as opposed to having to create something in a spreadsheet that somebody created 100 years ago or whatever it may be, is absolutely key. I mean, it's today, not 1985.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we now to actually turn to the individual, and this is the employee self-service. So this now is telling me as this guy Paul Morrison, this is me. So I've got in this case here what leave I've taken against what I'm entitled to. You'll notice down here we said before about the upcoming substitutions. That tells me when I need to make sure I'm covering for my colleague, and then also the current leave requests. So this is. Obviously, this can be done on a phone or whatever, as we discussed. So if we look on here now, we're going to create a quick leave. So let's say I'm going to have Monday the 19th, because that's the Monday after my birthday, and Paul's going to join me, and we're going to celebrate in big time. Okay. So as soon as I create that, the important thing about this now is it's going to show me what the leave calendar is looking like in my team. And therefore, this again can impact on the substitution and all that kind of good stuff. So all very live stuff, except for my internet's gone. There we go. So that's now showing me what's coming up, and then here will show me the view of my team and who's taking leave at the same time. So here you see Paul has booked off my birthday, and it's been approved, and here he's put in a day after the weekend to get over my birthday, which at the moment hasn't been approved. But we can see also other people that have taken leave. Now, in some cases, it won't tell you what type of leave it is, because it might be might be something, it might be a special leave for some reason. Okay.
But actually, that's by design. By design, Ian. So in this view that you're seeing right here, as Paul Morrison, he can see his leave type.
Yeah.
I'm going on regular leave, I'm on sick leave, whatever type of leave, and he cannot see the other employees in his team, their absence, because of GDPR. So he is not entitled to see maybe what kind or whatever it may be. As a manager may be able to see that. He just needs to know, is my normal substitute not available for that particular time period? Or is maybe the company's policy is, say, only 25% or 40% of a department can be on leave at any given time. As soon as he sees this, he instantly knows, okay, wow, 25% already on leave. I need not apply, right? Because it's going to get disapproved. And that, again, gives him clarity, and also lets the, the managers know that they don't have to waste their time explaining why he didn't get his leave approved.
Yeah, excellent. Well, again, it's that visibility, isn't it, Jason? That means, it cuts out a lot of the process, makes it instant, makes it very accessible. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So if we go back into the manager, then we should now find, if we give that a quick update, and let's check for, let's filter and see if Paul's in there. Let's see what Paul's got showing. So we had, here we're on the 19th. This is in progress. So if we open that up, let's open up that leave, and So if I'm now his manager, I can now go straight in here and approve this. So this is all done on the on this app, but obviously it can also be done through the email as well. So very accessible. Now I'm now I can also see what's going on here, so I can see now whether I'm happy for this to happen. But if I am, then fine. I can then move this forward. I can approve it. So and so on. So I'm going to actually approve this, and then Paul will get notified that he can move on and have that day off. So everyone's happy. Everyone's happy. Okay.
And the cool thing is, right, we had a lot of conversation around this, but if you just think of how quick the process is, if Paul's sitting at his phone and I'm his manager sitting at my phone, all of this would really only take 25 seconds, right?
Sure.
And Paul would take 23 of that, just saying, okay, is this the right day? Did I double check, that there's enough people to cover down? Did I book a substitute? Whatever it may be. And as a manager, I can simply see, okay, quickly, yep, I've got enough people to do the job that my department needs to do, done. And then Paul gets an automated email saying, hey, your leave's improved, enjoy your time off, whatever. And it's literally instantly, right? I mean, your internet's a little bit slow today, so maybe it would have taken 35 seconds, but 35 seconds is a far cry from 2 weeks. And, 6 kilometers walked off the production floor trying to chase down a leave.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also I think it's we're back to that respect for the employee again, aren't we? I think this is crucial these days. So you're not expecting people to go and almost, front up at HR and go, oh, please tell me how much leave I've got. No. It's available to you anytime. You know how much leave you've got. You know we can apply for. You can check with your substitute. You can go ahead and make it happen. And the chances are, if it's going to go through approval, unless there's something you don't know about, the chances are it's going to happen. It's going to happen quickly, and away you go. So I think there's a lot of respect built into this process, effectively, in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing we talked a little bit about, flexibility in the types of leaves or types of absences.
Yeah.
And there's going to be scenarios where maybe Paul lost his mobile phone, he's out camping or whatever, an emergency where he can communicate with his boss, from a payphone, if those things even exist, or something, and say, hey, unfortunately, I can't make it back. I had a car accident. I need an additional day. And it gives the flexibility that the supervisor can apply for 1 day's leave and approve it on behalf of Paul. So, we've really tried to think about all these different scenarios that could happen. Is it something that happens every day? No, thank God. But in the off chance that it does happen, we need to make that available.
I think also a very smart feature, which I didn't appreciate until initially, was also the national holidays. And I love this. So, the fact that in Paul Morrison's record, we can determine where his main place of employment is. So we've got a classic example, right, Jason? You're based in Germany, I'm based in the UK. Yeah? And if you and I both took the last week in December off, which happened to be over Christmas, right? And we booked 5 days, you'd get Christmas Eve off free, effectively. And I get Christmas Day and Boxing Day, because that's the difference between UK bank holidays and German bank holidays. That's correct, isn't it? I mean, I think you get Christmas Eve off. Yeah.
Yeah, we typically, the Christmas Eve, I think the normal policy is at least a half day, but most people get the whole day off, right?
Yeah.
And we also get Boxing Day off, so we would get 3 days leave where you would only get 2. Yeah.
Right.
But it wouldn't be charged against us. So if I took leave, if I submitted leave as an employee from 1 December to 1 January, at that end, you and I both have, let's say, 30 days or whatever, we would end up with a different balance, because I'm in Germany, I have X public holidays, and it's not just that, it even takes into consideration state holidays. So in Germany, there's 16 states, and each one of those have some different holidays. So it's Yeah, it's pretty intuitive. And we have a lot of customers, that have subsidiaries in the UK and they're also based in the US or vice versa. And, Memorial Day in the US, which is the 31st of May, obviously may not be a holiday in the UK. But those things, obviously have to be taken into consideration because that would be a nightmare to try and do it manually and really
Yeah.
defeat the purpose, right?
Yeah.
Or the case where, if we're looking at the screen right now, where the third or fourth person down took
Mhm.
basically 3 whole weeks off, we
Yeah.
wouldn't want it to include the Saturdays and Sundays that are already, non-working days. So instead of that being a total of 19 days vacation taken from them, it's only going to be 15.
Sure. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And that's all done in the background. So that's all done by the platform. That's not somebody's not had to key that into anything. That's just happened. So that's amazing. I just think the efficiency in that alone, particularly
Yeah.
from a multinational corp
Mm.
that's got to manage that. We, as you know, we're just deploying this into Finland, and they have a very different leave structure and entitlements and national holidays clearly than we have in the UK. But it works. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Super.
I think the flexibility of making that, last 5% for the region or the company or whatever is an absolute requirement in a modern HR management solution. If you don't have that capability, then it's going to be really tough to provide a good service and a good platform for the customer.
Sure. I think we need a recap actually, Jason, because this has been quite a wide-ranging discussion.
Yeah.
I think, as always, it's always a pleasure talking to you, sir. But I think what we started with the premise of saying, what is the modern work, the modern day employees' expectation around work and how that, I think today we're talking about work is what you do, not where you do it. And that has implications for HR, massive implications for HR, obviously, and for operational management. But to achieve that, you need two things. You need to enable and empower people to take charge of what they do, and that includes their time off, their time out, absence, or whatever form that might be. But also to be able to manage that from administrative and remove the administrative burden as much as possible from the employee, but also from the employer. And then on the other side of that, it's as a good employer being able to monitor to make sure that, let's be honest, the employer needs to make sure that people are doing giving their contribution, but also to make sure that if there are challenges to that approach, that they understand that and can have that discussion with the employee to see what they can do to be as supportive as possible to the employee for both parties. So I think, you've got any other comments to that then, Jason?
No, I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up, and I'm sure some of the stories that we've told kind of goes around that topic, right? I think the key things from a takeaway from that initial slide that we had with the gray blocks and the colored blocks and that sort of thing. Those are key things to understand, right? Leave and absence is just one component of employee well-being, of a modern HR management system, all of those things. I think the big picture is being able to give comfort and flexibility to the employee and real-time reporting to management, because there's nothing worse than being a manager and having to make decisions that affect employees, that affect investment in new employees and those sorts of things when we're just doing averages, or we're taking 2 or 3 reports and kind of picking the best one or throwing a dart at a board, and whatever color it lands is the pattern we're going to go with. So, from the very new entry-level employee or intern or whatever, all the way up to the owner of an organization. These things are super important. Well-being, reporting, sound decision making, and all in a modern platform. And integrated working is key, right? I mean, there's project managers using, project operations or project service automation on the Microsoft platform. They need to know what employees can they book as a resource and who's on leave, right? You can't do a project if your whole project management team is on vacation. So these are just normal things in this time period.
Yeah, absolutely. Wise words as always, Jason. Wise words as always.
Thanks, Ian.
Okay. Well, yeah. Excellent. Well, I think we'll draw this to a close now because it's been a good discussion. So I haven't seen any questions come up in the Q&A box. So what I'm going to suggest is we've got some calls to action here. So we want to know more about Dynamics, the HR for Dynamics. Then there's the Hubdrive website up there, dynamics-hr-management.com. Obviously, you can go to cloud2020.co.uk. Talk to us on Twitter or on LinkedIn. Email us. We've got another webinar coming up on the 12th of May. So we're going to have another interesting piece of banter, I'm sure, Jason.
Try and keep it lively. Yeah.
We try and keep it lively, absolutely. And also, if you check out our YouTube channel, then we have the previous conversation we had on there. So I think, Jason, just for me to thank you yet again for your fabulous insights and wit and conversation, and to thank people for attending today, and hope you found that of benefit. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Ian, from our side for a great partnership. Obviously, these are, getting this out to as many people as possible is key to have partnerships to be scalable. So I really appreciate you and the team.